self-pleasure. That's the other job.
Oh, so I can call self-pleasure on stuff.
You do already.
What?
All of this. All of this.
No.
What's going on, fam? It's your boy Sydney from the Nakid Gardeners. In today's video, we're going to do a recap of the summer garden. What we're basically doing is kind of showing you what all worked for us during this summer garden. Even though we thought we missed the boat and wouldn't have a good harvest for our summer garden, it was actually a bountiful harvest that we had this year. This is our first year trying different methods, and so we're going to show you what all worked for us, what all didn't work for us, and what we plan to do to incorporate the things that didn't work for us. So we're going to go row by row and show you how we're going to also prepare for the fall garden. This trellis right here, this was your butternut squash, correct?
Correct.
And it's basically already spent. Mrs. Nakid Gardener already took a lot of it down and weeded out through a lot of this. And I've noticed on here that we've started to get some morning glory. We had morning glory somehow grow up on this trellis right there, but now it's growing up on here, so we got to weed that and get it up from the root.
The morning glory has been my nemesis that I have been weeding since I planted all of this stuff, and I made sure to go to the base and kill all of it today.
First frost, average first frost, we're actually in growing zone 8A, Northeast Texas. Our first frost is normally around Thanksgiving time frame, so I think I have enough time to start some peas on this trellis.
However, I'm allowing the calabaza squash do what it's going to do, and it is expanding. As soon as everything died off, like the butternut squash and the trombino squash, the calabaza took off. One of our viewers sent us seeds. It is a Puerto Rican seed that actually does really well, squash, the calabaza, and our growing zone is actually very similar to it, and we just got to taste it for the first time. I spent some time cutting it open and creating a soup starter because I just read that it's like the butternut squash, and it was phenomenal. Like, it tasted better than any butternut squash I've ever had. So I'm gonna allow the calabaza squash that started to take off as all the other ones were dying off to do what it's gonna do. It looks like it has a lot of buds. I want the calabaza squash, I want as much as I can get to do the soup starters and preserve that. And if it's gonna crunch into the peas, the calabaza, what I tasted, is going to take precedence.
But I'm gonna still put some peas around here. Are you done with the zinnias? Should we cut them up?
I was gonna pull them up.
Okay.
But you really love, I mean, I like them too.
Yeah.
But you love them, and I was gonna pull them up, but I thought you'd get butthurt about it.
Anyway, so we'll get rid of these. The thing I don't like about these trellis, I try to do what Zach did on Stiver. He was saying that one of these T-posts will actually, I mean, and it actually does very well on just a arch trellis, but I still like the support of our 2 T-posts for each of these arch trellis because of the support. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the reason why here in a minute. So we just had an incident where it gave me the conclusion of why I'm going to change these out to a 2-post arch trellis. So if you follow us for a while, you'll see that we're missing something right here, and that was our tree that cast a shadow right here. During the Arctic blast, or what was it, Arctic blast or something last year, November, one of the branches fell and we had to prune it off, and it would just seem like it was just an old tree, and it just seemed like it was just dying on us. And well, eventually died, and a big old branch just fell right over our watermelon beds and smashed some of our Jamaican sorrel, kind of hindered some of the growth of our asparagus, a lot of hindering shade. It was shading off of our watermelon plant right here. So that tree falling on this area basically hindered a lot of growth and success that we were having on the other part of the bed.
And as soon as that was lifted, just this week, 2 weeks later, I have counted that there's a lot of golden delicious watermelons that are starting to take off. There's some moonbeam watermelons starting to take off. There's one that looks gigantic, and I'm gonna have to look at the labels because I don't know exactly which one it is, but it is gigantic.
I can see where the tree fell, where a lot of the yellowing is, so we're gonna probably have to fertilize some fertilizer here. We'll probably put some rabbit manure right around here, some nitrogen and some calcium and some iron deficiency going on right here. This area was another area where the Jamaican sorrel got smushed. The Mrs. Nakid Gardener had propped these up with the stakes. So after the tree got removed and shredded by the local authorities here, the tree shredders, these look like they're going to be bouncing back up. If we would have had that tree removed a while back, it would have been looking just like this. Looked like last year we were getting a lot of these. You were harvesting these around what, September, October time frame?
October, November.
Yeah, and I can already start seeing some buds already right on this plant alone.
You can see in this area where 4 of the plants, because there's 10 of them, create a living wall. 4 of them, you can see exactly where the heavy branches were just blockading any sun, any growth on it. And so in comparison, you can see like how much bigger that other plant is.
Here we have our Persian pickling cucumbers. We initially last year had it towards the front, but being back here, it seems like it's a better flow for this because now it allows some protection from the evening sunlight and protecting from the watermelon patch right here. Now last year we were pruning a lot of these, but now that we are focusing on pickling, we don't want them to get a bigger size. Most of the times when you pruned, you want it for a large size yield instead of production yield, and the missus has been harvesting these every other day to make about seven.
I am harvesting every day.
Oh, she says she's harvesting every day, and getting about 7 quarts per day or every other day.
Every 2 days I'm getting 7 quarts.
So every 2 days she's getting about 7 quarts of these cucumbers that she's turning into pickles. Some of these she's doing slices, some of these she's doing whole spears. These are about the good size that you're wanting, right?
Yes, for my whole pickles.
Yeah, so just imagine these already I just found right in this area. So we'll definitely be keeping this here for next year. I think it provides a good evening protection for these beds right here. Let's go to the next bed over. This row right here was our tomato bed, and we were just randomly putting different types of tomatoes in here. What I've learned from this year compared to the previous years that we've grown tomatoes is indeterminate tomatoes is not for us to grow out into a regular garden. We will definitely need some trellis, and with our Texas heat and humidity, it just kills them. We'll get about 1 or 2 fruits at the beginning of the stage, and towards the end of the season we'll get maybe another 1 or 2 tomatoes. But growing determinate tomatoes has been the key success for us. We've harvested at least over 100 pounds of tomatoes. The missus has about 60 pounds of tomatoes in the freezer that we're going to possibly make some ketchup or some sauce on it. We don't know yet, still in the works. The one tomato that we grew that I thought it was a determinate tomato, but it was in the determinate seed collection package, was the yellow golds. Even those were prolific and were good, they were actually indeterminate tomatoes. So we definitely won't be growing these in here. I think our next year we're just going to focus on the red snapper, the Roma, and the Bergese. Those tomatoes were a key factor for our harvesting this year.
There was a Roma that we grew that was a much larger Roma, and I feel like it was probably more bang for our buck because it was just as productive as the indeterminate Romas that were kind of like smaller. And so I felt like most of the pounds I have in the freezer are from that larger Roma. I would really like to try the marzipan determinate tomato because I hear that it makes a great sauce.
I was trying to succession tomatoes in here, but time constraints, it didn't allow me to do so. By the time I put the starters in here, that they just didn't do too well. Another thing I don't want to do next year is with these marigolds. These marigolds just went crazy in this bed. We actually had 3 sets. I probably just only do 1 set. However, it did help out with a lot against pests, and especially with the tomato hornworm towards until the end of the season, where it was just stressed so much that the tomatoes just couldn't do anything.
I really feel like you were successful in planning out the co-planting because we really did not suffer from pests eating off of our tomatoes. A few tried, but it wasn't like what we have experienced in the past. And I feel like that had to do with the co-planting. So I would suggest that we do some marigolds, but do them in container pots that we can move, and if we need to transplant it, like thin it out and put it in particular spots, because we just allowed them to go crazy and they shadowed out some of our plants. I feel like we can do better about that.
Or we could even grow some dwarf varieties, so we could try that. So for the fall, I think I am going to pull all of these out, and then definitely pull out this mum. So the purpose of the mum was to bring pollinators. However, I forgot that it was a fall plant. I was surprised, actually. This was from last year, so I'm surprised that it during this heat it just started to grow again. With this fall weather coming up, it's really going to start to blossom. So I think I'm going to put it in a container. Not sure where. Probably put it in the future herb garden. So in this row, we're in our pepper beds, where we had a different variety of peppers. We got jalapeno, we have Korean long peppers, and different types of banana peppers and other peppers. I noticed with the Korean long pepper, I did not like because it bushed out too much. The sweet hot peppers I do like. The Mrs. Nakid Gardener, she did not like. But I would like one variety of peppers in here. I think also with the salvia that I got from my dad's garden, I kind of want to replant this. With the salvia, it's also getting a little bit too bushy. I trimmed this back twice now and it's still getting bushy. It's a perennial in our area. I think I might also put this in a planter or a container, or I might even try to put it in our new herb garden. So a lot of this plants in this bed will be removed and we'll focus on a new area. I do like the fact that I did at one point had the peppers real close to each other. I mistakenly did that as well with our determinate tomatoes in each one of these beds, and I think I will spread them out a little bit further. That's why I have these stakes in this bed to kind of give me a 3-foot distance between each of the tomatoes. But next, let's go over to the other tomato bed that got removed out and show you our plan, what's going on for that one. Like I said, this was another one of our tomato rows. I've taken a lot of these up. We had some still basil that hasn't went to bolt. I think because of this shade cloth right here compared to the other ones like our Thai basil and lemon basil. But I've put some lettuce in here. It's been growing pretty well. I think I'm going to actually make all these tomato beds, or maybe just this one, turn it when we convert it into our fall garden, make it our collard greens one, and haven't figured out what to do with the other ones, what I'm going to be planting in each one of the beds, but I think I want this one to be our main collard green bed. So we had the hot peppers, now we have the sweet peppers. We had a variety of sweet peppers that we got from the local nursery that's here. And some of these were yellow pepper, some of these were sweet red pepper, some of these were California red. It was just a variety of mixes of peppers. Uh, this year was actually very well for us. Last year we had a very bountiful harvest of cucumbers. This year was tomatoes and peppers. The missus have been dicing up a lot of these peppers and onions and been storing them into freezer bags into the freezer, so whenever we need them, if we're going to use it for a particular dish, it's nice to have where we can go straight to the freezer, put them into whatever recipe that we're going to be using and incorporating it into a meal. It's nice to have that offhand. So I think I want to take a California red, yellow, and a sweet red, and maybe a gigantic green. We did pimentos. Now, right now we're not set up to enjoy pimentos. We tried them in different dishes and they have a thicker wall.
But I did pressure can the pimentos in some bone broth, some chicken bone broth that I make, along with some of our sweet peppers and a few other of the cans. And I will be able to use that very successfully in the quiche dishes that I make, our duck quiche.
The bourgeois, we only had like 2 bourgeois in this tomato bed, and we had different varieties of Roma and some other tomatoes. I think what I would like to do is do like I said, one variety of tomatoes. It makes it a lot easier to harvest when we're selecting when to harvest and what to harvest. This year was our first time seeing our sage or growing sage that went almost to flower. We have a lot of basil and marigold, and I think there was some calendula in this bed to kind of deter a lot of the pests of the hornworm, so that way it would not be attacking our tomatoes. However, we still don't know what to do about the locusts, but if only about 1 tomato per plant gets affected by the locusts, I'm fine with that if we have a whole row of tomatoes. This bed here was just a random bed. I think I'm going to call this bed our experimental bed, where if we find a new vegetable, plant, whatever, we'll probably put it in this bed, because we have this aji pepper that's in this bed. We have a tomato that was in this bed. Our echinacea from last year just grew so big that it almost took over the end of the bed. And then we have some walking onions. We had 3 that we were gifted, and then it just started walking and just mass producing, where the missus actually just pulled some up, and I think she's gonna be doing something with that. But we have also our comfrey that I want to move from here because of the overgrown pineapple sage that is just blocking it out. So we'll probably just use this as our test bed to see if we like a particular new plant or vegetable. So we tried to grow pineapple sage previously at our old place near Dallas, and it never took. The missus decided to purchase this at the local nursery and put this in the ground, and it, as you can see, it just took off from a single 3-inch container here. This is excellent for hummingbirds. We saw a lot of hummingbirds this year coming off of these plants, especially when it flowers. It just brings a nice aroma. It's part of the mint family, and it doesn't smell like pineapple, but it has a nice minty smell to it. This is our strawberry plant. It started off very small, and now a lot of the runners are just taking over. Hopefully we can get another wave of these once the cooler months start to arrive here. But I mean, it is just jam-packed. It wasn't like this when we first planted. I think we had 12 of these, and now we probably have at least 40 runners in here that I'm going to have to start pruning a lot of this to kind of give it some airflow. So this was our artichoke bed, but we planted some lemongrass in here, and the lemongrasses, this is our first time ever growing lemongrass successfully. We didn't know it was going to be like this, so it basically overshadowed a lot of our artichoke. So a lot of our artichoke just died off, because with artichoke you'll need at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. And then with this loofah that just took over this arch trellis, actually even added more shade to this. It just took over. What I plan to do is take a lot of this lemongrass out. I probably just leave one in here, but we have some containers on the front porch that I'm going to probably transplant a lot of these over into, and then that way we'll probably start another wave of artichoke. Probably not too many in here, but that way we'll be able to have a lot of artichoke for next year and start harvesting some of this lemongrass for some teas or whatever it may be. So here is where we had basically the branch of the tree just fall all over these trellises here. And this is what I was talking about. If you had a two T-post system, two on each side, I think it would have held up a lot stronger. Like this one. This one was a two T-post prong, and the branch of the tree fell on top of this one, but this one has still its structure and integrity, where this one is kind of all leaned and bent up. This is our vajayjah bed that we had. We were growing the borage in here along with some other brassicas that we were trying to have it shade out, and it just went to seed. And then when the branch also fell over this area, we weren't able to get to it to weed out. So once again, we're going to take some weed whacker. There's a lot of ants in this bed that we're going to have to eliminate.
What is your plan for the elimination of those ants?
I'm going to do a mixture of a borax and some sugar mixture and put it in the beds here, mix it all up after I clean the beds out and all the surrounding area from it. And that way, when it comes to fall time, I think I might plant some spinach, some topsoil, and some arugula into this bed here.
I would be happy with that.
So if you're interested in something like this, we'll put the link in the description down below, and at checkout, if you use our affiliate code, you'll get a discount and you'll be helping support us at the same time. So here is our loofah, one of our two loofah towers. I think we only had, two, maybe three loofah seeds germinate from here, 4. And as you can see, it just took over, kind of overshadowed a lot of the watermelon plants and flowers that we had growing in there mistakenly. So we'll definitely won't be doing that again. I think the missus was actually talking about growing grapes on these two trellises now. That way she can use the grape leaves to incorporate with her pickling, because it's supposed to give it a crisper crunch to it. We still have our tomato experiment going on. I'm going to start putting some mulch on here. With the heat, it was just hard on these plants, but as you can see, they kind of rebound. The one plant back here never rebounded from the soil because we had put some alfalfa straw on each one of these to use it as a mulch, but I guess it was sprayed with something that just got into the soil, so it didn't take off. So these are actually the second wave of plants. These were going to be our red snapper plants, but that straw just killed off the plants. I think it was, some people were thinking it was grazon. So I let it stay out in the sun. I watered it deeply to kind of sterilize it and flush out the system here. In these pots, we have the long red cayenne peppers. Since I didn't have a good germination on our cayenne peppers that we were trying to grow from seed, we actually got these from the local nurseries. They was like in a 3-inch pot. And these been actually pretty good. We've been getting a good harvest off of these. They, just because of the extreme heat temperatures that we've been getting, they're starting to produce a lot right now. So there's a lot of work that we have to do to get prepared for the fall garden. One of the main things is start weeding in between these rows and putting a lot of mulch down, because we're getting a lot of weed and grass growing up in between the rows. Got to cut down a lot of areas where we want to put up some more peas and other items. into for these arch trellises. What I want to do is reshape a lot of this area to give it a defined look, because right now it seems like it's just wild, and so I want to do that. However, if you want to see how we started these loofah beds and extended out for this garden, we did a video about that. We'll put that off to the side and also in the description down below. Until the next video, let's grow together.